In this video, we're going to discuss the variable switch behavior, as well as the animated object behavior. And the reason I'm going to cover both today is because they kind of go hand in hand, at least in this demonstration they do, because the variable switch behavior is used to modulate the control of an object. In this case, we'll be controlling the animation of an object. So let me show you how that works. These are all animated objects that I have in this room. This room, by the way, comes from the DLC for the Steampunk DLC that was just released by iFly. This is the demo scene included. So I thought it'd be a good opportunity for you to see some of these objects firsthand in case you were interested, maybe kind of thinking about purchasing it. So another opportunity to explore. All of these objects are animated objects that come with the DLC. And so I thought this is a great opportunity to kind of show off these two behaviors. Now, as you can see, all of them right now are not currently animated. And I'm going to control the animation with a switch. So I'm going to come over to this switch here. You can see that there's a new prompt here. Instead of an E for, to turn it on, turn it off, it's a plus minus. And that plus minus is a range. So when we control the range, so I'll show you in the settings where you can set the range, but in my case, I just chose from 0 to 1. So it's a decimal. And if I press the plus key, I'm just gonna press it real quickly and get like a really slow animation, right? You can get the sound playing, get some slow animation playing. If I increase it all the way up, so I'm just gonna hold down plus now, all the way up to 1, much faster animation. So we are now controlling the speed of the animation for these objects. So you can just press the minus key and turn it right off. So we now have control of these animated objects. So before I get into the settings on these, I thought, well, let's just explore the other rooms because there are other animated objects in this DLC that you might be interested in. So this obviously the same object just repeated, but it's like a big wheel. And I've got the same kind of setup here, so I'm just going to press the plus sign and kind of get it animated. You can see it moving. Press the minus key to turn that off. There's a couple more in here. Now these two objects are the same object and the same object that we saw in the previous room. It's really just these two objects that I wanted to show off as well. So this is some sort of like tank, and it's got this arm here, and that arm is the thing that moves. And then this other tank that's kind of horizontal has some tubes sticking out of it, and it's got some wheels and some pistons on that side to animate. So I'm going to press the plus sign on here. I'll just give it a little speed. You can see that it's moving, playing its sound. Turn the flashlight on so you can see that. It's a little dark back there. So really nice set. I like it a lot. All right, so let me show you how the behaviors work. All right, so 2 behaviors to cover. Where to begin? Let's start with the animated object since it happens to be on the screen. The animated object, this object, as you can see, has animation playing in the editor screen, and that's its default property. It's playing animation by default. I'm not controlling it in this case. And if I didn't have a behavior on the object, we would see that in the editor. And when we played the game, we would see the same animation playing out because there's nothing controlling it, and that's the default. So in order to control the animation, even if we didn't want to use the variation switch, maybe we just wanted to control, maybe we just want to slow it down, right? We can do that with the animated object behavior. So this behavior can stand alone. It doesn't have to be used in conjunction with the variable switch, but it can. That's why I'm choosing to showcase both. So here you can see it says run animation. You can choose which animation you want to run. Obviously, if the object has more than one animation in its animation set, then you'll have a choice to choose from a list. But in this case, it really only has the one animation, so that's the only choice. And then this is the animation speed, is a decimal. Now I can increase this or decrease this any way I want. I can set that, or I can just set the number here, to whatever I want. And I would say that 1 is 100% in this case. So if you go beyond that, it's going to be very, very fast. So just be aware of that. And it's going to probably be a little bit different depending on the object that we're talking about, right? When you import an animated object, you get the chance to control the default animation speed at that time. So one might be very, very slow based on your animation speed that you chose when you imported the object. So you're gonna have to play around with it and see what feels right to you per object. But that's how you control the speed. Then we have the variable switch user global. Now, if you're not using a variable switch, you could just leave this blank and forget it, and ignore it. It doesn't do anything. But if you are using the variable switch, what you need to do is create a user global of your own and call it, whatever you want. In my case, I have room 1, room 2, and room 3 because there's 3 rooms here. And that's how I know which objects the switch is going to control. So all the objects that have room 1 are in this room, and then the button you will see in a minute has the room 1 variable tied to it as well. And then lastly, of course, you have the sound that plays when it is animating. So obviously, if the object is not animating, then there's no sound. And if there's any animation at all, then it plays the sound. And then we have the variable switch. So this variable switch here, here's the prompt text that I showed you earlier. I wouldn't change that necessarily unless you want to like crack open the code yourself and change the key bindings that control the speed. That's up to you, but I'd probably leave that as is. And then we have the prompt display. So local means local to the object, meaning close to the object, or screen, which will put the prompt display there at the bottom center of the screen. Now you have a starter value, a minimum value, and a maximum value. And the way to understand this is think first about the minimum value and the maximum value, right? Obviously 0 is the minimum value, it's off, right? And then as we mentioned before, for this particular object, I chose 1 because that would be 100% of the animation speed that I wanted to play. And then you can choose a starter value. So when the game starts, if you want the machine to be on by default, then you could put a starter value here. Maybe you set it to 1, maybe you set it to 0.50, whatever you want to make it, and it would be on by default. And the variable switch can increase the speed or decrease it back down to turning it off. That's up to you. In my case, I wanted it to be off by default, so I just set it to 0. Here's where you put the variable switch user global. So this ticks and ties what it's going to control, right? So everything that has that variable switch user global is what this variable switch is going to control. Notice that there are no logic links, and the if used is not filled in. So this is actually the first time I've seen a behavior that controls anything without any logic link and without any if use. It's based solely on the variable that's placed in here. And that means that these other objects are not being turned on or off because they have different variable switch global user globals, right? So like this has room 2 and these all have room 3. And obviously the switches do as well. Now you can also change the maximum value up really, really high. So I chose 1 intentionally because I felt that was kind of 100% of that particular animation speed, like what it was intended to be. But here you see I set it to 100. So what that would do, if I increased it all the way past 1 and all the way up to 100, it'd be going lightning fast. And maybe that's what you want. Maybe you want it to override and blow up or something. I don't know, but that's up to you. But you can do that. You have control over these values. Then we have the item highlight. We've seen that before in other interactable objects where you can choose either no highlight or a shape, which means the entire shape of the object would highlight, or just the outline of the object, which is what I like. So I chose that. And then, of course, the sound it plays when you interact with the object. And that is it. That's the variable switch and animated object behaviors explained. If you enjoyed the video or if you learned anything new, please be sure to click the like button down below. That helps me out. If you're new here or if you just haven't subscribed yet, would love to have you stick around. And lastly, if you'd like a notification for whenever a new video is posted, just click the bell icon and that'll let you know when a new video is ready. Thanks so much for watching all the way through. I always appreciate it. Big shout out to iFly for the wonderful DLC. It looks great. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now. Hey, don't forget there's a written guide for every behavior, including ones I haven't yet covered on this channel. And if you want to learn some more, why don't you check out this video next.